Hi, this is Chris from SlickCyberSystems, and we're here with Jim Slick, and we're going to discuss a few things today, but the main point of our topic, one you love, frustrations behind why can't I get a straight answer from IT? What is really going on underneath the hood?
We tech people, not us, but tech people in general tend to spew out all the acronyms and the tech speak and this and that, which confuses people. We do not do that.
I think that when you're in the industry, it tends to be an issue of you think you need to talk that way because you're talking to another, if you will, nerd. You're talking nerd to nerd. Yep. You're not talking nerd to nerd. You're talking nerd to customer.
Right. And so that being said, customer service is absolutely number one. Mm-hmm. Period. You've got to talk to the customer, like a surgeon would talk to you in the ER, right? And say, okay, that this is what we found, and dumb it down so that the layman understands, the non-medical professional, the non-IT professional understands as best they can. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean they're going to fully understand everything you're saying, but you need to do your best to speak in English, not in tech.
Yeah.
And because they are your customers, and that's who's paying the bill. So, or I don't know what the real problem is. How long is it going to take to fix this? I don't know. How are they putting the tickets in? Are they? Is it all a bunch of jumbled, vomited mess? Where it's like you look at it and you could see 16 different ideas in a single sentence.
It's like a paragraph that is like multiple things and not necessarily one thing. You can zero in on. Yeah.
So it takes us to go back to be able to disseminate from the customer what in the heck is going on. What happened first? What happened? When did you first see this? When did it? And walk down through the line to help us. Yeah, we have tools that can look at stuff, but we also need to understand how it manifested. So when you have both pieces of data and it's concise, we can get an answer way faster, as opposed to chasing back after the end customer. Unfortunately, most times you got to chase back after the end customer and ask them.
I think there's a perception of, hey, I have a problem means automatically that a light sometimes pops up on, like that you're seeing a light like this isn't working, that's not working.
Yeah.
And though there are some tools that let you see some things, it doesn't necessarily mean that I can see that your enter key is sticking.
Every little nuance.
Yeah.
Every little nuance. That is correct. And you have to realize too, you're talking about an MSP that's dealing with a lot of people, a lot of customers, large customer base, and you're not the only one. There's first come, first served, and then but prioritized, right, by order of magnitude of the problem.
And we have to identify. We have to. Well, yes, you have a problem. If you're the customer, are you allowed to talk to us? Like, are you actually have support? When someone calls, and then walk it through down where the problem's actually at. How do I contact you if we get disconnected? Those things a lot of times get looked over.
And along with that, I mean, one of the frustrations that we have, in our company is, somebody will get comfy and just send an email to one person, as opposed to putting in a ticket like they're supposed to be doing, even though we've told them time and time and time and time and time again. That's a really big thing, because if it doesn't hit the queue, then the whole team doesn't know about it.
Yeah.
And if that person is out on a job, on vacation, away,
sick day.
now all of a sudden, sick day. Now all of a sudden it's like, well, am I not a priority? Why am I not being taken care of? Well, follow the right frickin', when we onboard a customer, we tell them specifically, this is the phone number you call. This is how you enter a ticket. If you don't want to make the phone call, here's the email address. Send the ticket. Send the email to our ticketing system. It gens the ticket, and then everybody's eyes see it.
Yeah.
And that's the part that they just don't get, because once you, the tech, starts dealing with them, they immediately have. Well, I'll just email them next time.
If you are the, I always tell everybody when they call, you are welcome to call me. But if I'm out, you're going to get my voicemail, or it's going to sit in my inbox. And if you're okay with that, I'm okay with it.
Yeah,
but if you need something quick, you got to follow the steps so that everybody else gets to see it.
Right,
because I can't see everybody else's
and quite
email.
Honestly,
send them an email.
It's only fair. It's only fair to them. It's only fair to us.
Yeah.
Where we're trying to deal with a lot of these situations, and again, prioritizations. I mean, if somebody's server is down for something, you know what I mean? I mean, that is a major priority over my mouse doesn't work. I'm sorry, but needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. A little Spockism there. So I think that's. Again, they are part of the problem, without a doubt. The end user reporting the problem, whether it's to the wrong person or saying the wrong thing in that message.
Long process.
And then when you try to call them back, they're never available. I love that one too. Again, frustrations from the MSP side, from the IT folks side. We need to understand what's going on properly, and if you're calling for a problem, you need to do your best to at least look for that callback if you're not calling in. Yeah. You call in, obviously, you're going to get a human with us, but
and if you don't, if you get voicemail because everybody's on the phone, let's just imagine, like Teams, and what's been a bit, Teams has been down, but I'm just picking on something, or Outlook, something's down, right? Everybody in the world that it might be reporting an issue that is affecting everybody.
Right.
But so if they're trying to fire it off an email or something, they're not contacting.
When they're calling the help desk, though, they're getting a human.
Correct.
Being every time. You may have to wait a minute or two, but you're getting a human on the phone. Is what I'm saying. If you don't have the patience to do that, you're just sending an email.
Yeah.
Then you have to look and understand. Okay, you send an email, and that's 24-hour minimum response time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need it now, right meow, as the cats would say, you better pick up the phone and call the desk.
Because we're going to have to, a human has to sort through it,
sure.
For the most part. If it's coming, especially if you're targeting one person, if you're not sending it out to, like the help desk queue, like help desk at whatever.
Even if you do, it's still a 24-hour response.
No, absolutely.
Via that method.
But what I'm saying is a human has to filter through it to make sure it's
correct.
The issue's being dealt with correctly.
Right. So, I guess then, it's sort of root cause, just to go back, and kind of cover it, what could cause it from an IT side. Tech jargon, right? You start rattling off tech jargon to them that they don't understand. Give it to them in plain English, because there may be things that take time, like have to be done at nighttime or what have you, a change, whatever. Because it doesn't mean anything to them. They just need stuff to work. So you have to do your best to explain. Okay, this, even though technical or not, this affects this, and until I do this, that's not going to work properly.
Yeah.
And I think that getting them to understand in plain English, not in tech jargon, is a good thing.
So you'd say a lot of frustration comes back from having to diagnose something on the fly because they're frustrated.
You don't ever do that. If any good tech is going to, unless they really, honest to God, know, which, a lot of times I look at stuff, I know what the heck it is, but, don't sit there and guess, because if you give them, the wrong answer and you find out that you're wrong, it's only going to be mud in your eye, from the IT side, the MSP side. So, you've got to test, you've got to make sure everything's done right, expeditiously, obviously, but you still have to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
Don't ever overpromise.
Yeah.
If you don't know what the time frame is, don't give them a time frame. You're better off setting a proper expectation up front and saying, I'm not sure, but as soon as we know, we'll contact you and let you know. But we will be actively working on it.
Or at minimum saying that I don't know, I'll touch base with you by within an hour, to tell you what what we've investigated and give you a better timeline.
And again, it might be in 5 minutes, but it might be in 5 hours, because you just don't know the problem until you get down into the problem.
I just think the follow-up on that piece is very key, is to make sure that as you're able to disseminate some information and say, well, this is what we know so far, but we're continuing to work on an issue.
Right. Yeah. And then occasionally, you get the get buried from the MSP side. We have all these calls coming in, and as I said earlier on this video, we have to prioritize. We've got to prioritize, it's not just the size of the customer, it's the magnitude of the problem. How many users is this affecting? How many people is this affecting? And kind of disseminate that down. And then, you make your game plan for the day or what have you, the afternoon, morning, and you work through it. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? I mean, you've got to do it methodically and with care. Because the minute you don't, now you're making mistakes. And mistakes are going to cost more downtime, more distrust, more anger.
Yep, definitely.
So just, again, speak the truth. Train your customers to put the tickets in the right way with the right language if they can.
I also think there's a component of like internally making sure that your communication skills are
good.
Yeah, because sometimes like you want to avoid like we had said, the tech jargon. You want to avoid the false expectations. Forgetting to get someone's telephone number, that could be a serious problem.
Right.
A password off of them. What PC are you on? Okay, you're having a problem, but then you can't try and reach out to them and they're not available.
Yeah, and it's
obviously going to slow everything down because you didn't gather the information when they were available.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of building up to that and prep, and it's still never going to be perfect, but you still have to do. The bottom line is your customer service skills have to be on top of their game, and you've got to be able to go to, back to the customer and go, okay, I understand this to be this. Is this the way it went down? Is this what happened?
Yep.
And just get the information correct, because the wrong information is going to give most likely the wrong answer.
And I also think if you have certain users that work with certain accounts, you get to know the personality, so you can kind of understand the tone of what they're saying and say, okay, I understand that you're frustrated,
right?
But just so I understand this, walk me through it, because I'm not there with you. I understand you're having a problem and I want to fix the problem, but explain it to me, because you're experiencing it, but your vernacular, the way you're feeling it or seeing it, or your process of how you use the software, the machine, the whatever,
right,
is different than, honestly, my nerd understanding might be a lot lower than what yours is on what you do on that machine.
Right. Yeah, it's again, we're coming down to find out gather their information, find out the best language to use to explain, how you're going to, not how you're going to attack this, but what you're going to do. Set a reasonable expectation of time, and if you do that and then you deliver on it, I mean that's called solving a problem the right way, in my opinion. So it's. It doesn't mean first come, first serve. It means, worst come, first served, as in the biggest disaster first. And to me, it's okay. Somebody's, mouse or something isn't working. Okay, look, we're in a server down situation with another client right now. Reboot your computer. Send the ticket in. We'll get to it as soon as we have this other problem resolved. I think that's setting a reasonable expectation. It is what it is.
Again, I think that's back to the communication pieces. You just need to communicate with, hey, we're looking into it. If you don't hear from us by X, let's have another, call or whatever. Correct. You can set that expectation and mark your calendar out accordingly.
Absolutely. Okay, I think we beat it to death.
I think so too.
570-215-8888 or
SlickCyberSystems.com. Questions, comments, just fire them off. We'll do our best to answer questions more than the comments, please.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a good one. If you find this content helpful, please like the video, subscribe, and share with your friends and your colleagues. Thank you.